Good evening and welcome to Watchmen on the Wall. Thank you for joining us. We took our cameras to the launch of Porndemic, a book that illustrates the dire threat of pornography on South African society. We then speak to Mark Curry of VirtueNet, an internet service provider that provides a facility to block pornography and other harmful content off the internet. I also talked to John Smythe, a Christian attorney, about the legal challenges against Top TV, who are now known as Starsat, to stop them from putting hardcore pornography on South African television.
Some of you may be wondering why a nice girl like me would want to tackle such an awful and taboo topic. Well, I'm hoping by the end of this presentation you will be informed and inspired to make a difference in this issue, and you'll understand the seriousness of what's going on in this country, but most importantly, how this is a winnable war. I want to start off with a story. Liz Jones counseled hundreds of sexually abused children in the years that she worked at Safeline as a counselor. She dealt with countless incidences of porn-related abuse, but her heart sank each time she heard those familiar words. I watched it on the TV, or I saw it in the magazine. On one occasion, she counseled a boy just entering puberty from a top-notch Cape Town primary school. The principal referred his parents to Safeline after complaints were made to teachers about the way he kept trying to touch the girls, grabbing them between the legs, and talking about sex inappropriately with other children. It eventually culminated in a blatant incident of child-on-child sexual abuse. Normal reprimands and discipline from teachers and parents were not working, so his mother brought him in for therapy with Liz. But why? Liz said to him, "Why did you say that? What made you think of that?" Eventually, he admitted to watching a TV program at a relative's house. It was Emmanuel on ETV. He was not the only child to become abuse reactive or to sexually abuse other children after watching Emmanuel when the full series was broadcasted on ETV in the year 2000, even though it was late at night. Not all young people go to bed, hit the sack, when the clock strikes 9:30 or 11:30 or even 1 a.m. 13 years later, or 14 years later, South Africa has become more pornified than we can even imagine. But it was the early 90s when porn first started to flood South Africa. And since 1992, the rape rate, particularly of children, increased dramatically. SA police records show that reported child rape increased from 3,600 in 1992 to almost 15,000 in 1996. This is an increase of just over 400% in just 4 years. Is it mere coincidence that this escalation coincided with the flood of pornography that hit our country during these years? When the police found the blood-stained body of 7-year-old Ramon Jacobs of Mitchell's Plain, they discovered 5 meters away the pornography-saturated room of the rapist who had murdered her. The walls were covered with pin-ups from Scope, Stag, and Bunny Girl. Now, this is quite an old example, but this has led to many academics and scholars saying that pornography is propaganda for rape culture. It's like marketing for exploitation. So now South Africa has become more pornified than anyone could have imagined. Not only are children now being exposed to pornography, now they're actually imitating it and even producing their own. In the last 4 years, 2010 to 2013, there have been 4 gang rapes of girls by teen boys that I know of. And in each of the 4 cases, the boys filmed the abuse, later spreading the video via social media. And the statistics that the Film Publications Board have documented confirm just how many children are being exposed to pornography on a daily basis. They found that 67% of teens surveyed have watched a porn DVD, and a total of 45% reported watching pornographic films regularly. Most teens surveyed, 64%, have been exposed to porn images on the internet, and 60% exchange porn internet addresses with their friends. 81% reported knowledge of porn images on their friends' cell phones, and this was 2008. There's probably thousands more children who have access to the internet on their smartphones now. So it's not a question of if you and your children will be exposed to porn, but when. Because porn is everywhere on the internet, and we go everywhere with the internet on our internet-enabled devices. So we really need to talk about this issue.
Excellent presentation on the book Porndemic, how the pornography plague affects you and what to do about it. Now, we all know that pornography is a growing menace in society. Children as young as 8, as we heard earlier on, becoming addicted to pornography. This book couldn't have come at a better time. How's this going to help the ordinary person out there?
Yes, well, Errol, we really are facing an epidemic of pornography in this country. Not only are children being exposed and getting addicted, but now they're even imitating the brutality, exploitativeness of pornography, and they're now producing their own pornography. We know of 4 gang rapes in the last 4 years in which teenagers gang raped girls, and then they filmed the rape and spread the video via social media. So, what's going on in the minds of children? And we need to be aware that it's not a question of if you or your children will be exposed, but when. And so we need to learn first and foremost how to protect our own families, but then what we can do to make a difference in society. We seeing countries that who were some of the first to legalize porn and legalize prostitution are now waking up to the devastating impact that it has had on them. So countries such as UK and Iceland are now implementing blocks on pornography, and we could see the same happen here in South Africa too, but not if you're not prepared to get involved and put up a fight. This is going to be a fight, but we need you to get involved and learn, be informed what you can do to make a difference, to create a ruckus in both the Christian and secular media, exposing these issues of when children are being exposed and the devastating impact that porn has on society. And there's information, there's addresses, there's websites, there's sample letters in the book. And so this book is really, it's an equipping tool to help you make a difference in this area. And Christians can make a difference. One person can make a difference.
Now, the rape and the sexual abuse of women in South Africa is also a huge issue. And in your research that you've done to compile this book, can you answer this question? Of the 64,500 rapes of women annually in this nation, what percentage of that do you believe porn played a role in?
Well, some researchers have said that over 7% of the rapists that they've surveyed admitted to imitating pornographic scenes in the act of their sex crimes. So that's a huge number. And others that I've spoken to who work with sexual offenders in prison say almost all the rapists that they're trying to minister and to bring the gospel to were addicted to pornography.
Now, Top TV, who is now known as Starsat, they've been given the green light to put 3 hardcore pornographic channels on South African television. Now, they haven't been successful yet because there are a number of legal challenges against that. But what do you think would happen if they were successful?
Well, children, even more children would be exposed to this. You know, if it's not enough for so many children to be exposed on the internet, we've got to throw in the porn on ETV and Top TV as well. And, children are tech savvy. They know how to break through codes and access this kind of stuff. But what's also concerning is the fathers, the husbands who will be watching this porn on Top TV and the impact that they will have on marriages. Research has shown that over 56% of divorces involve at least one of the partners having an obsessive interest in pornographic websites.
As a woman, Taryn, what do you think the overall effect of this wide exposure to pornography is on the internet, movies, videos, DVDs? What is the overall effect you think on women?
Well, pornography, it degrades women, it's dehumanizing, it makes women just out to be sex objects that are always shown as being sexually available. It says that when a woman says no, she actually means yes. It trivializes rape. And so really this affects all of us as women. This is why we have one of the reasons why we have such a huge rape crisis in South Africa.
So finally, Taryn, people are very concerned about pornography and they probably want to get hold of this book. How do they do that?
Yes, well, they can contact us at Africa Christian Action on 021-689-4480. That's 689-4480. And, or email me, info@christianaction.org.za, or visit our website, christianaction.org.za, and you can order copies from us.
Taryn, thank you once again for the work for you, Peter Hammond and Christine McCafferty, on producing a book like Porndemic. It is necessary, it is needed, and we hope it's going to be a great success. Many people will see this.
Well, thank you, Errol, for Family Policy Institute and what you're doing to fight for the family.
Yeah, I've been involved and I've given many talks at schools, colleges, universities, churches, on radio, on television. I've debated the issues and the problems of pornography. And over the last 16, 17 years, I have seen, I've tried to work out the other day, but well over 1,000 men with their wives or partners, but men that have been addicted to pornography. And I've seen the absolute destruction that this has caused. But I can say categorically that in over 90% of the men that I have seen over the years, and I'm talking about late teens to in their 70s, in over 90% of those cases, the issues that those men were facing or are facing today, the reason behind it was early exposure to sexually explicit material. In other words, as children. And never mind how father thought he had hidden a magazine away or a video or whatever it was, kids had come across it and it had affected them for the rest of their lives, or for a large part of their lives. So it's imperative that we, as parents, as husbands, as wives, as brothers, as sisters, work together in protecting our children, changing people's hearts. I don't want to say it's too late to change our hearts, but we've got to work on those young kids in school stage, junior schools, and change their hearts. Because when one thinks of the exposure that children have today to pornography, it's at a click of a button. And we think, at times I think, well, that's it, I've heard everything now. When just another frightening case of a child that has actively looked and found pornography because they've been told about it in a playground or something like it. And I'm talking about junior school, grade 5, 6s, 7s, that type of age group, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And, to have a parent phoning me up absolutely in anguish that their young child of 10 years old maybe, their innocence has been stripped away because at a click of a mouse, at the push of a button, they've been exposed to pornography. And I don't need to tell most of you people here what pornography is today. It is so utterly cruel, violent and degrading towards women. According to our constitution, in all honesty, pornography should be deemed hate speech, and it should be banned in this country or made illegal. And understand today, the average age of first exposure to pornography, the average age is 8 years old. A few years ago it was 11 years old. The average age now is 8 years old of first exposure to pornography. Now, in a developing mind, that's another whole story about, the developing mind and the effects. We're training our kids. They are being digitally rewired by pornography. So that's a very serious matter. And some of the cases I've had to deal with have been frightening, really. A normal, happy family, any family, shouldn't have to deal with the issues like this. You know, when a mother comes into a room and finds her 10-year-old daughter accessing hectic, hardcore pornographic sites because someone told her about it at school. Or another mother went into the history on the computer that her kids had been on and found that they'd been in bestiality sites. Now, what grounding is that for a child? What chance do they have when they are learning about sex and relationships when they're looking at pornography? And, we wonder why we're having such a high rate of divorce, etc. today. Because these kids grow up, and, I counsel a lot of these guys at a later stage, and they've gone into a relationship with totally the wrong expectations. And it is so destructive to those relationships. And we must understand, it's so humiliating to women what is being done to them. And one of the frightening factors also is that the addiction amongst women is also growing. And I draw attention to the book which made so many headlines, like 50 Shades of Grey and that trilogy. Now, psychologists who have read that and studied it say that is pedophilia in plain sight. And that is what that book is promoting. I won't go into the details. There's an article on the internet by Professor Janet Reisman, I think her name is, who goes into it and dissects it. It is frightening, and this is what that book in South Africa, or in the world, but in South Africa as well, sold more copies than Harry Potter series. That's how prevalent it was. And that's what women are getting into, more into the emotional side, chat rooms and these romance novels. And, just out of interest, a child today, they say, they've done research, and they say by the time the youth today reach the age of 21, they will have spent 20,000 hours in front of a TV screen, gaming, social networking, or pornography. And just over a third of that is in isolation. So you wonder why the kids today are losing that ability to interact socially one-on-one in the flesh, so to speak. Why they are preferring to have cyber relationships rather than real live relationships. These are just some of the issues that we have to be aware of so that we can discuss these things with our children.
Clive Human, thank you for talking to us. You did an excellent presentation once again about the dangers of pornography, and I think your remark that 8-year-olds are now being exposed to pornography and being addicted, I think that's disturbing. But we have this book, Porndemic, that Africa Christian Action has put out. Do you think this is going to help many people to at least understand the gravity of the problem?
Most definitely. Errol, people do not understand how prevalent pornography is out there. And a lot of people think their children are protected because in their homes they have checks and balances and boundaries in for their kids. But it just shows, where a few years ago, the average age of first exposure to pornography was 11-year-olds. In the last couple of years, it's dropped to 8-year-olds. That is the average age of first exposure to pornography. Now, how can a developing mind conceptualize what they have seen and what they are seeing in pornography? So it's a huge issue. It's a major problem in society today, all over the world. And let me tell you, it's a first for South Africa to have a book like this where people can buy it. It's not that expensive. It's a necessity. Every school, every college, every university, every household should have this book in their possession, because believe me, it's a tool. You'll learn, you'll understand, you'll realize, and it will empower you to be able to deal with these issues in a far better way. Because today, that is the problem. A lot of the parents, a lot of the guardians, a lot of the teachers, and etc., they don't have the know-how. They don't have the nous to handle this type of thing. And it's, they tend to shy away from it. They don't bring it up in conversation because they're too scared to, because they're not quite sure how to handle it. And a book like this can empower them and really give them a tool in which they can go confidently and talk about these issues.
You said earlier that pornography consumption and even addiction is prevalent in the church. So not even the church is exempt from this. Do you think that churches should be buying these books, putting it in their bookstores and encouraging men to buy it?
I think every church should have numerous copies of this book because, you know, what do we want as a church? We want to help. We want to help the brokenhearted. And, you know, we got to have so many more men who are prepared to, and women, because it's a growing problem amongst women as well. We need support groups. We need groups where people can come and talk about these issues in a confidential way, in a non-judgmental way, where they can get help. And this is a type of book where the people who are helping, as well as those who need help, can find comfort from. So yes, I believe that every church should have a book like this, as well as they should be talking about these issues from the pulpit and have specialized people who are looking into counseling and helping people with these issues as well, because it is a major issue today.
You said you've got a support group, that you help couples, you help men, you help women, but you also said that the people seeking out your help are getting younger and younger. Now it's becoming 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds that are getting addicted to pornography and seeking out help and support. Now, how do we help those young people? Because it's okay, you know, it's easier to help an adult. The adult will come and ask for help and you can do that. But how do you help children as far as porn addiction is concerned?
It's a very difficult thing, you know, because we are digitally rewiring those children's brains by them looking at pornography. So it's a big issue, you know, and they may need proper psychiatric treatment, you know, to deal with the root causes and issues that they are facing. It's a very difficult situation. But let me tell you, I'm dealing with guys in the early 20s who are in relationships, married now. They've looked at so much porn over the years that they're actually impotent in their relationship, that the porn itself has taken over a real live person, and that is tragic. And you know what it does to the partner in a relationship, that she's not able to turn her partner on. It's devastating to that relationship, and I've seen divorces because of that. But as far as children go, it's it's easier to change a child's heart because it's still reasonably early on that path, and it's easier, you know, you can put in checks and balances and help, and it is easier to change it from an earlier age, because the longer a person is involved in this, the more difficult it is to change that habit, to break that bondage. And so yeah, it's a journey, but it can be done. And you know, there's always hope, because over the years we have seen hundreds and hundreds of men that have been set free from the bondage of pornography.
It's great to hear that, Clive. We want to thank you and commend you for the incredibly important work you're doing. And we also thank God for this book, Porndemic, and we hope many people will go out and get it, because, you know, even if you're not struggling yourself with this problem, you can help others and be empowered by that. So, Clive, thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
John Smythe, thank you for inviting us into your home once again. The last time we were here, we talked about your legal challenge against ICASA that you launched at the Western Cape High Court against Top TV, now known as Starset. Can you tell us, have there been any more developments with that case?
Errol, it's great to be on your show again. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, as you know, JASA attacks this terrible scourge of porn on two levels, Parliament and in the courts. And the one you refer to, of course, is in the courts. What's happened there is that last November we filed our application for what's called a review in the High Court, because we believe that the ICASA committee, which heard the matter and granted the license, acted on a wrong basis in law. And unfortunately, there was no lawyer there to put them right. The only lawyer was on the other side. Perhaps JASA should have been there, but we weren't, sadly. So anyway, we're attacking that decision, first of all, on that basis. And our case was filed last November. We've already been before a judge, and we have a date for the end of March as things stand at the moment. However, two other Christian organizations, Cause for Justice, also based in this part of the world, the Western Cape, and Doctors for Life, who are in KZN, they have filed their applications in respect of the same matter, and we're of course all on the same side in this matter, but they have filed in Pretoria. Now there are technical reasons for that, but almost certainly there will be an application from Top TV and from ICASA to consolidate the three cases. Now unfortunately this may slow things down, and we are opposing it as far as we can. It's not that we don't want their help or don't want to help them, but we do think it's a matter of urgency. But I can tell you this, that on March the 10th, even earlier than our date, Doctors for Life are going to make an application in court for an urgent interdict to stop the broadcasting of the pornography by Top TV until the matter is heard in court. So we wish them the very best, and I hope your viewers will pray for that. That's something we felt wouldn't succeed, and we therefore didn't take that step. But who knows? I mean, if a judge feels strongly enough about it, he'll stop it straight away and say, well, they can wait. So we want to pray for that. And then the question after that is whether we all come together or whether the two cases are heard in Pretoria and ours is heard down here. We could get ours on quite quickly. And if we don't hold the March date, because sometimes things come in, we could probably get it on by May, something like that.
So John, to clarify, we have three separate legal challenges against ICASA granting Top TV, now known as Starsat, the license to broadcast hardcore pornography on South African television.
Correct.
And the question I wanted to ask you is, does that necessarily mean, while these challenges are waiting to be heard, that Starsat cannot go ahead and broadcast pornography on television?
No, unfortunately it doesn't, you see, and that's why Doctors for Life have brought the challenge for an immediate interdict pending the full hearing. So it would be a two-stage matter.
Yes.
So they are going to court, and I think this date is fixed on March the 10th in Pretoria, to ask the judge not to decide the whole issue, but to decide whether they should be allowed to go on broadcasting pornography until the case comes on and judgment is given. And that's the one I was saying we need to pray for that.
Yeah, and I want to ask our viewers to pray urgently into this matter, because having just been at the launch of Porndemic, the book that Africa Christian Action has launched on the plague of porn on society, it just again illustrates how dangerous this challenge is to society and how we have to combat it. And I think these challenges against Top TV is so important. Most people want to keep pornography off television. I think the majority of South Africans. The next question I wanted to ask you, did you manage to see the challenges that Doctors for Life or the other group is putting on?
Oh yes, we've seen the papers. We share the papers and help each other to that extent.
And what do you think our chances are of winning this case and stopping Top TV?
Doctors for Life have done a lot of research into this whole question of pornography rewiring the brain. It's frightening, really. That just means, in simple terms, that if you get addicted to pornography, and the experts are saying this who are not Christians, right across the board, your brain becomes rewired and you can't have normal sexual relationships. So it's a frightening thing. And we're very pleased that they have added that to their papers, and that may be another reason why we should all come together for the main hearing. And when you take that into account, coupled with the very strong legal point, you know, it's a technical point, but it's a very strong point, that quite simply ICASA didn't take into account the right law, I think the chances of succeeding are very good indeed. But, Errol, it has to be said that if we succeed, almost certainly the court would send it back to ICASA, and they would have another hearing, and this time they would apply the right law, and of course anybody could bring evidence before them the second time round. So it's not going to be a quick matter, I don't think. But I think the chances of getting it sent back to ICASA to reconsider it I would say, are very good. We don't take on matters, you know, in JASA, unless we think the chances are good to very good.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, at the Porndemic book launch, the research showing that more and more children are being exposed to hardcore pornography on the internet, on television. Shouldn't that be the core of our argument when we're arguing against pornography in any form, whether that's in magazines, television, internet?
Absolutely, and perhaps in a moment I can mention what we're doing in Parliament on that score. But you're absolutely right. One of the points we make in our challenge, the JASA challenge, is that the internet is one thing, it's bad enough, but you have to go and open up your computer or your phone and you get onto it. Television, watching television is so passive. People have their television on almost 24 hours a day, you know, 18 hours a day in their living room or in their kitchen. And we're not at all impressed by the argument that there is a code that children won't get through. We think that people will watch this stuff. They'll pay for it and watch it, and children will be coming in and out, you know, all the time. And they'll be intrigued by it. And television, I think, is much more dangerous, therefore. It's a step further down into the chasm.
That's right. Now, you drafted a law for Malusi Gigaba in Parliament when you was Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, now, there's a long story there, but to cut it short, Malusi Gigaba, as you know, was promoted to a higher position in the cabinet, and it's not within his field anymore. And so it went then to his successor, Fatima Chowan, Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. And we saw her several times and discussed it with her, and she asked us to redraft the bill, and we did that. And then she said that she would talk to the Department of Communications, because they would have to be involved if the government were to present this bill. And she did that, but communications has been through a lot of trouble, of course, and the minister at that time is now out of office, and there's a new minister and a new deputy. And at a breakfast quite recently, when I spoke to Fatima Chowan and to her superior, the Minister of Home Affairs, I was told that Home Affairs and Communications were finding it difficult to work together on this matter. So our approach now is to see if we can make some headway, see if we can open a new door through the Ministry of Women, Children and Disabled Persons. And I can tell you that only last week, a few days ago, while I was in Parliament on another matter, I met with the Minister and talked to her about this matter. And I'm hoping to have an interview with her very soon.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the opening of Parliament. And hopefully we can speak to, I think it's Lulu Zinkwana.
That's right.
Minister of Women, Children and People with Disabilities. Yes. John, thank you for the update. We'll come back to you in a few months to get another update about where, and hopefully some good news about your challenge, Doctors for Life, and the others, stopping Top TV from putting hardcore pornography on South African television.
Thank you, Errol. We value all that you're doing and publicity, and we value the prayers of those who watch your show.
Mark, welcome to the program. We've been at the launch of Porndemic, how the pornography plague affects you and what you can do about it. Now, this book illustrates just the growing danger of pornography on society. Men getting addicted, young boys getting addicted, and now even women being addicted to pornography. So that is the problem, and I think the weight of this problem most people are aware of. But how do we solve this problem? And you have a facility that brings solutions to help families protect children and even themselves from being exposed to pornography. Tell us about that.
Sure. Errol, thank you for having me on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show and to be talking to more people about how to protect their families. And this is just a subject that I'm very passionate about. In 2004, when we started to see broadband internet becoming commonplace in South African homes, it was great concern to me that people could have such easy access to pornography. And it was really then that set the wheels in motion for us to start VirtuNet in 2009, which is South Africa's first only dedicated child or family online safety organisation. And really what our chief aim is really to educate people on the dangers of the internet, and more importantly to provide the technology tools for families to protect their children or their spouse, whether using a mobile phone or whether using an ADSL connection or a home computer.
So tell us how VirtuNet works.
Well, really, it depends on what device in what environment you are planning to protect. We work in the education sphere where we provide solutions to schools to keep kids safe on the internet, either using filtering hardware or software for 10 computers or 10,000 computers. Whether you are using a home internet connection, ADSL, we have software for Apple or Windows-based laptops, and we are going to be launching our VirtuNet Mobile Protect, which is the first of its kind. It's a full protection suite for mobile devices, whether tablets or cell phones, whether you have an Apple or Android device or a BlackBerry. Our software can protect that and filter the internet. We're also currently working with various local service providers to launch South Africa's first filtered ADSL connection. And we believe this is really the long-term solution, particularly in the home environment, to protecting at a gateway level, where instead of putting software on various devices, because the typical modern home these days has you have gaming consoles like PlayStations and Xboxes that are internet capable. Kids can browse the internet through those things. You have computers, you have laptops, you have tablets, you have cell phones. You have smart TVs now that connect to the internet. And the issue, we do a lot of talks at schools and engage with a lot of parents and churches. And I had the one parent come to me and say, all of this Android and all of these things, all this stuff you're talking about, it's like hieroglyphics. And we empathize with the parents, and that's really, our motto is you connect, we protect. And really what we try to do is demystify what it means to protect a child on the internet by providing solutions that work. There's a lot of experts out there, quote unquote, who talk a lot about, you need to talk with your child and inform them of the dangers of the internet. But we know the problems, addictions of the spouse, wife or husband in marriage. We know that, from the data on hand from the Film and Publications Board done in 1,000 schools throughout South Africa, over 70% of kids had been exposed to pornography on their cell phones, often involuntarily. The stats, 9 out of 10 children between the ages of 8 and 16 are often exposed to pornography, often by just typing the wrong keywords into a search engine, and it takes them into the darkest corner of the internet. Now, we have a lot of parents saying, well, my child would never look at that stuff, but that content will find them. So we need to put those safeguards in place, and talking is one thing, but we need to establish boundaries as well, which can only be done using technology.
So when you talk about gateway level or tier 1 level, explain what that means.
There's two ways you can talk of gateway to your house. So if you're using an ADSL type modem router for a device as such to do the filtering there instead of having software on the individual devices. But more importantly, what we're aiming towards is to have it filtered at ISP level, which means that our filters are placed in the core network of a service provider, and that is linked to your ADSL account. And basically you can manage the settings to your home. It's filtered at source before that content comes into.
So every device being used in that house is protected. Tell me, how effective are these filters?
They're very effective. The accuracy is between 97 and 99% accurate. The technology we use uses real-time content analysis, so it's categorizing text and images in real time. And as the internet adapts and changes, so do our filters. And that's really what separates good filters from bad filters. Our filters also have virtually zero latency. They don't slow down browsing speeds, which is a common concern people have with filtering. So, they're very, very effective. Obviously, the challenges that we have faced now with the internet is becoming more encrypted. Because of security and privacy concerns, a lot of websites are encrypting their data. That makes it harder to filter because we have to use technologies that can still filter web requests with that within an encrypted session, which is difficult to do.
So is that encrypting deliberately to bypass the filters?
Sometimes, yes, it's in the name of privacy, yes. Sometimes it really is just for security. But, you know, there's a lot of websites out there now that really don't have to be secure websites that are doing that in order to bypass filters. Kids also use things called web proxies, which is they go to from one website to another to avoid a filter. Our technology has intelligent proxy detection, so it avoids, prevents children from doing that. So really, the technology measures are very effective, and we're adapting our technologies as these, secure sites are starting to emerge. We're adapting our technologies to be able to filter secure websites and that sort of thing. Our technologies also lock in the safe search functionality on Google, Yahoo, Bing, all your major search engines, which is a critical safety feature because so many kids stumble upon hardcore web content. They can go to the most bizarre website in the darkest corner of the internet by just typing in the wrong keywords. And this is why it's so important to have technology that locks in the strict search functionality on your web or image searches done on Google or all your major search engines to ensure that that content doesn't come up accidentally.
Mark, just reading through part of this book, Porndemic, it is frightening to see how pornography is infiltrating our nation, getting to younger and younger children and causing devastation to the family. Marriages are breaking down as a result of men getting addicted, younger boys getting addicted to pornography. Even Hollywood now is dealing with this issue because it's becoming such a huge and growing problem. So that's the problem, and VirtueNet obviously is the solution. But many people would need this kind of thing. They want to put filters, they want to know how to protect themselves, their children. How do people get more knowledge about VirtueNet, and how can they contact you if they want to find out more and maybe get these filters on their internet?
Sure. Well, look, they're welcome to contact us through our website, www.virtuenet.co.za. That's the virtue, virtuenet.co.za. Or they can email me at info@virtuenet.co.za, and I'd be happy to assist them with a school or for home. The biggest thing that is for people to realize the need for this. A lot of the parents we talk to sort of have a very lax attitude towards child online safety, and what we've seen, we ran an ad many years ago in a popular Christian magazine. And most of the people who phoned were actually women who were really at the end of the road with regards to their husband having addiction to porn. So one of the big, we've done a lot of conferences and we talked to a lot of Christian schools as well. And I had one lady say to me, look, we really like what VirtueNet's doing, but we put the truth into our kids, so we don't need what you have. And I think it's just very important to all the viewers out there to understand that Christians are not immune to the dangers of the internet. The temptations are there, and
not only the temptations, but as you said, children typing in a word, a keyword, or misspelling something could take them to a bizarre, hardcore pornographic site. Yeah. And that's not intentional, but these things are going to get to the kids. Yes. And so we have to protect them. Do you think there's a lot of attitude amongst parents that this is not going to happen to my children?
Absolutely. That's the one we encounter the most. They kind of just say, well, my kid was a good kid, they were raised in a good home. They perceive putting some form of protection on their child's phone as being sort of too snoopy, or that their child will think that they don't trust them. Yes. And that kind of thing. And as I often say to parents, if your children or your spouse are using their technology responsibly, they should have no problem having a safety net there to protect them. It won't be any hindrance to them. So if they are trustworthy in the use of their devices, they shouldn't mind having the protection. And really that's what VirtueNet stands for, not just filtering software. We're here to bridge the gap between the home, between the school. So we believe in protecting families and children at home, at school, at the work, in the workplace, and anywhere between. And that's the difference between us and so many other companies who provide basic web filtering software, is that we are hoping to fuse mobile and fixed line internet into the same place. So eventually we want a parent to be able to manage the house rules as such through a web dashboard, where they can set the filtering policies for their home, where they can set the filtering policies for their children when they're at school, when they're out of school, as to what applications can be used, when can they use Facebook, when can they use WhatsApp or BBM. You know, we have a lot of parents saying, my kids don't sleep at night, they're too busy on the internet or chatting away. So we can put those applications on time schedules, or we can block certain applications from being used. We can pinpoint the location of your child. I mean, this is more than just for internet security, it's just safety as a whole. Our technology will be able to see who is your child phoning, who's phoning them, for how long, where are they, you can see where they are. We can use geofencing, which basically you can put a virtual fence around a school or a friend's house, and if they, for example, say I'm going to so-and-so's house on Friday night but land up at a club in town, you'll get an SMS or email immediately. So you have full recourse. If your child was kidnapped, you know, you'd be able to know their lost whereabouts. And as you know, when somebody's kidnapped, predator grooming is another issue that we deal with often, cyberbullying. If somebody goes missing, those first 24 hours are critical, is to know who were they talking to, what were they doing on that handset. So it's not just about internet safety, it's about a lot more.
Mark, yeah, it's remarkable what you're offering here is, through VirtueNet. When one reads the newspaper, sexual crimes against children, younger and younger children, is rising, escalating in this country, was alarmingly. And I think the kind of things that you're offering parents is critical. I think parents cannot be naive anymore in this nation, just considering that more than 25,000 children are raped or sexually abused in South Africa every year, and then more than 64,500 women are raped in this country. Or pornography is playing a huge role in that. Absolutely. And that's why we need to take this thing a lot more seriously than what we are.
You know, as the proverb says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. You know, and we need to wake up to the fact that ideas have consequences. Children or men or women exposed to this kind of content repeatedly, it's going to play itself out. Absolutely. In rape and in these kind of crimes against children, child molestation, all of that kind of thing. So it's something that needs to be taken seriously. And sadly, South Africa, I know in a poll done at the end of 2012 or thereabouts, South Africa ranked as one of the worst in the world in terms of nations who have awareness to online dangers. We were one of the lowest. So that's something that needs to change. So VirtueNet has been a lot about bridging that, not just the technology gap, but the knowledge gap. Because the problem we have is we have children who are very tech savvy and parents who come from a generation where they don't understand technology at all or have minimal understanding. So you've got non-tech savvy parents who are responsible for and need to be responsible for protecting very tech-savvy kids. And that's where we come alongside you. And we say, this is how you do it, and this is the easiest way that you can do it, most effective way.
How does your pricing compare with other internet service providers?
Oh, well, basically, generally per device, you're looking at what you would pay for antivirus software. You know, it's in that ballpark, you know. Obviously, certain technologies fluctuate according to rand-dollar exchange. We've tried to develop as much of the technologies as we can in South Africa so that we are, in a sense, sheltered from that. But it's very affordable.
So I think this is a godsend, Mark, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
It's exactly what the nation needs now, I think. And I want to encourage all parents out there, all families, to contact VirtueNet, to get these filters and these protections in place, because that oft-repeated declaration, it will never happen to me, or it wouldn't happen to our children. We know that that's not true. It can happen to anybody. There's predators out there. And I think to protect our children, the responsibility is on the parents.
Absolutely. As I often say to parents, it's a God-given responsibility. You know, we can't just give our child a smartphone with high-speed internet access, knowing the potential dangers. So giving them a loaded gun and say, well, you know, that's not my responsibility to do anything. You know, in that, if we do that, we become a stumbling block to our own children. Yeah. So if you're going to give your child a device, you need to make sure that it's safe. If you're going to give them a laptop, you need to make sure that it's safe. If you're going to give them internet access in their bedrooms, you need to make sure it's filtered. So yes, there's definitely responsibility, and we'd like to ask all the viewers to please pray for us. You know, it's a great challenge as technologies are changing all the time, and you know, we just to provide solutions to families. The prayer support is always welcome.
Yeah, we'll encourage our viewers to do just that, to pray for Mark Curry, pray for VirtueNet, and to contact them and get this protection on the internet.
We're also fully aligned, recommended and endorsed by Focus on the Family Africa. And if you're welcome to even get in touch with us through Focus on the Family is another way.
There's something Family Policy Institute as well endorses this.
Thank you so much.
Because it's a protection for families, and we believe families are so important.
And we so appreciate the work that you do, and just keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for speaking to us. God bless you. And we wish you much success with getting VirtueNet out there.
Thank you very much.
That's our show for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to go to our website, www.familypolicyinstitute.com, and register for our weekly newsletter. Also remember that the latest edition of Joy magazine is now available in all your major retail stores across the country. Thank you for joining us tonight. God bless you, and remember to keep on standing.